So dividing these radical expressions is a little tricky. So for those of you who need to see a few more worked through examples, we're going to go through and do a couple more. So we'll start with the easier kind, where there's just a monomial on top and a binomial on the bottom. Remember, we are using the conjugate, so the same thing as the denominator, but we change the middle sign only. So I'm going to put in my parentheses, and then my conjugate is going to be square root of 5 plus 8. Whatever we do on the bottom, we have to do on the top as well. And now we can distribute on the top and do FOIL on the bottom. So on top, when we distribute, we're going to get 6 square root of 5 plus 48. When we FOIL on the bottom, we're going to get the square root of 25 plus 8 square root 5 minus 8 square root 5 minus 64. Now remember, when you're doing this, if you are foiling in the bottom and you don't get two things that are going to cancel out, you don't have the right conjugate, okay? That's your clue. If you still have roots in the bottom, you've done the wrong conjugate and you need to go back to this step and fix it and then continue working. So in the top, nothing's going to combine. We just have those two terms. In the bottom, square root of 25, well, that's just 5. These two middle terms cancel out just like we were hoping. So now we can see where we can go. Square root of 5, so 6 square root of 5 plus 48, that stays on the top. On the bottom now I have 5 minus 64. That is a negative 59. So remember, last step, does 6, 48, and 59 have any factors in common? No, they do not. So that is our final answer. Okay. Now let's try one where we've got a binomial on top. Those are the tricky ones. And the ones that people get the weirdest answers and therefore they seem to think they're wrong even when they're not. So let's say we have 3 minus square root 2 on the top and 4 square root 3 plus 5 square root 2 on the bottom. Okay, there's our fraction, our dividing. First step, put in those parentheses so you don't forget about them. Now we need the conjugate. Conjugate of the bottom only. Change that middle sign. 4 square root 3 minus 5 square root 2. On the top, same thing. You can put the fraction bar there or not. 4 square root 3 minus 5 square root 2. Now we're going to have to FOIL on both the top and the bottom, which means we're going to get 4 terms on top, 4 terms on bottom. Hopefully some of them will simplify. 3 times 4 square root 3 is 12 square root 3. 3 times negative 5 square root 2 is negative 15 square root 2. Negative square root 2 times 4 square root 3 is negative 4 square root 6. And then last will give us a positive 5 square root 4. So looking at that, these are not going to combine. However, that one will simplify. So we'll kind of come back to that in a minute. But just kind of making a mental note as we go through. Now we're going to multiply on the bottom. We're going to get 16 square root 9 minus 20 square root 6 plus 20 square root 6. There's our like terms. That's good. Minus 25 square root 4. Okay, so now I'm going to look and see what we can do. We already said that square root of 4, that's a perfect square, so that's really just a 2. So I'll put that in. Here, square root of 9 is really just a 3. These guys are going to cancel out. Square root of 4 is just a 2. So writing on it that way might make it a little easier for you to keep track of stuff. If not, just write it as its own step. Okay, so where are we at now? Well, we have 12 square root 3 minus 15 square root 2 minus 4 square root 6 plus 5 times 2 is 10. So we can put that there. Now, just looking at these numbers, the 12, the 15, the 4, and the 10, I know my answer is not going to simplify because those 4 numbers don't have anything in common. I mean, these 3 are all even. These 2 have a 5, but all 4 don't. So that tells me I'm not going to be able to simplify no matter what I get on the bottom. Okay, 16 times 3, that's 48, minus 25 times 2, that's 50. So, one step left and we will have this problem done. We're going to do that subtraction on the bottom. So 12 square root 3 minus 15 square root 2 minus 4 square root 6 plus 10. All of that is over -2. And that is our final answer. So take your time with these. You can do them. Don't try to squish it into a tiny space, but you can work through them. Look for like terms, look for roots that can simplify, and then when you're done, see if all the pieces can divide by something, which in this case they can't because 15 is not even. So go ahead, finish your worksheet if you need to, go back, redo the Quizalize, see if you can do any better, and if you still have questions, let us know.